Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at REC Limited. You might remember it as the Rural Electrification Corporation.
That's right.
We've got some great material detailing its, well, quite amazing transformation. It started back in 1969, just focusing on getting power to agricultural pump sets.
A very specific initial goal.
And now it's a Maharatna company, a major player financing the whole power sector, and increasingly things way beyond power.
It really is a fascinating evolution. It kind of tracks India's own development story in many ways.
Absolutely. And here's a fact that really jumped out at me. Think about it. REC started because of drought, focusing purely on farm electrification.
A critical need back then.
And now it's shooting for a, wait for it, 10 lakh crore rupee loan book by 2030. That's huge. And a big slice of that is planned for renewable energy, plus things like metro rail, airports. Quite the shift.
Yeah, the scale is just something else. And understanding why they made these shifts, that's the interesting part.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really unpack REC's journey, where it's come from, what it does now, and what that signals about India's growth, and maybe, helps you see the forces shaping the country's infrastructure.
Okay, let's get into it.
Right. So 1969, severe drought, REC is founded. The mission is crystal clear. Rural electrification, specifically energizing agricultural pump sets.
Which was, absolutely crucial then. Tackling food security, giving the rural economy a much-needed boost during a tough time.
Then things started to change. Around 2003, its responsibilities widened quite a bit. The mandate expanded. Now it covered the entire power sector, value chain generation, transmission, distribution, everything.
And that makes sense, right? The economy was growing fast, energy needs were soaring, so you needed a more holistic approach to power infrastructure.
And then more recently, around 2022, another big pivot, diversification.
Right.
They started moving into non-power infrastructure and logistics. We're talking roads, metro rail, airports, even things like hospitals and educational institutions. Social infrastructure.
Which, again, signals a strategic move, recognizing that infrastructure needs go way beyond just electricity, and maybe finding new areas for growth, too.
And to reflect that wider scope, they officially changed the name to REC Limited back in 2018.
Makes sense. The old name didn't really cover it anymore.
All leading up to September 2022, when they achieved Maharatna status.
Which is a really big deal in the public sector world. It underlines their importance, their strong performance, and gives them, well, a lot more operational freedom.
Now, REC isn't just writing checks. It's often the main agency, the nodal agency for rolling out big government schemes.
That's a key part of their role.
Remember those huge electrification drives like RGGBY, DIDO-GGY, and Sabhagya? They aim to get power to almost every village and household.
And were largely successful.
REC was right in the thick of making those happen, hitting those near 100% milestones.
Yeah, their track record in executing these massive national programs is pretty impressive. It shows they have the capability and the reach.
And right now. They're the nodal agency for the RDSS, the Revamped Distribution Sector Scheme. That's all about fixing the finances and operations of the state power distribution companies, the DISCOMs.
A huge challenge, but incredibly important for the sector's health. DISCOM reform, essentially.
Plus, they're also an implementing agency for the Prime Minister's rooftop solar scheme, the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana.
So they're central to both modernizing the grid and pushing the renewable energy agenda forward. It puts them right at the intersection of current energy priorities.
Let's touch on the financials quickly. They've been consistently profitable. For fiscal year 24, they reported a record profit after tax over 14,000 crore.
Which is strong, definitely. But what's also really noteworthy is how they've cleaned up their books.
The asset quality.
Exactly. Their net non-performing assets, the bad loans basically, were down to just 0.74% by December 2024. That's a significant improvement.
That really does suggest good financial management. And they're not resting on their laurels. We mentioned the 10 lakh crore loan book target by 2030. Within that, they want 30% of their portfolio to be in renewable energy.
So a clear, stated commitment. Financing the green transition isn't just a side project, it's core to their future growth strategy. Almost a third of their lending.
Looking ahead then, the strategy seems pretty clear. A major focus on renewables financing. They're targeting 3 lakh crore specifically for that by 2030.
That's a substantial target just for renewables.
Alongside that, a controlled, careful expansion into that non-power infrastructure and logistics space we talked about.
Right, managed growth there.
While, of course, sticking to their knitting, maintaining that strong commitment to the core power sector where they started.
It sounds like a balanced approach. Consolidating their strength in power while carefully exploring these new related infrastructure areas seems prudent.
So wrapping this up for you, the listener, the big takeaway here is REC's incredible journey. From focusing solely on village electricity to becoming this huge infrastructure financier, it really mirrors India's own development path.
It's quite the transformation.
That Maharatna status, the strategic shift into renewables and other infrastructure, it positions REC as, well, a really critical engine for India's future growth.
Yeah.
The strong financials and ambitious targets point to a dynamic road ahead.
Though, of course, managing that rapid growth, competition, keeping asset quality strong, those will be challenges to watch.
Definitely.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to consider. REC started by addressing very basic foundational needs, water pumps, village lights. Now it's funding high-tech metros and vast solar farms. How does the evolution of an institution like this reflect our nation's changing priorities, that constant balancing act between, foundational development and aiming for a cutting-edge future? And maybe think about the role these large state-backed financial giants play. How much do they actually shape the kind of infrastructure, the kind of energy future we end up building? It's something worth mulling over.